All right, we are moving on with our next topic. We're done with geometry for a little while, so we're moving on to factors and multiples. And before we get started with that, we need to do a quick lesson on exponents. I think some of you, or most of you, have some understanding of exponents, probably from order of operations and PEMDAS. You know that the E in PEMDAS stands for exponents. So I'm hoping this is more of a review lesson, but if it's your first time learning about it, that's fine. We'll go over the basics and maybe some things you don't know. All right, so if you don't know, an exponent is when you have a regular size number and then whenever you have that little number at the top, that is what an exponent is, okay? So a couple definitions that we need to know about. The first one is the word base. I know you're probably thinking, we just learned all about bases with geometry, why are we talking about it again? This is a different kind of base. So a base with exponents is the regular size number. That regular size number is called the base. So the repeated number, and that'll make more sense in just a minute if you don't know what I mean by that. So it's the repeated number. What I mean is like the regular size number. Okay, so that's just the number that you're used to seeing. All right, then you have an exponent. All right, and the exponent is the little number that's at the top. Power. But the way that you would write this is we would say 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? Now hopefully you're realizing all these 5s are right here because of this 5 right here. And then why did I write 5 6 times? Well, I wrote it 6 times because that exponent right there tells me that it's 6. Like the definition says, the number up top tells you how many times you're going to be multiplying your base number. Okay. Now a lot of people do it like this. That is absolutely 100% the wrong way. Not at all what you're supposed to do. Okay, this is the right way. Okay, they don't give you the same thing at all, not even a little bit. Okay, for example, we're not going to do all of this, but 5 times 5 we know is 25. 25 times 5. Think about it, if you have 5 quarters, that's 125. So 5 times 6 is 30. So they're not at all going to be the same thing. Okay, so please don't get those two things confused, and that's the number one thing people mess up on when it comes to exponents. Okay? So for example, if it was 2 to the third power, I'm not doing 2 times 3. I'm writing 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? Remember, it's 2 because of this number right here, and then I wrote it 3 times because that number right there is a 3. If it had been a 5, then I would 5 times. Okay? So that number up there just tells you how many times you need to write that number. Let's look at a few quick facts that you might not have known about exponents. And these are just quick little tips and tricks to kind of make it go a little faster for you. All right, any number to the first power equals itself. What in the world does that mean? Well, what it means is if I have 6 to the first power, it just equals 6. Okay, because remember, this number right here tells you how many times to write this number. Well, if I'm only writing it one time, well, then it just equals 6. Even if it's 23 to the first power. How many times am I going to write 23? Well, I'm going to write it one time. All right? Even if it's, I don't know, 1,829 to the first power. My answer is still going to be 1,829. Okay? So that's just like a quick one. And you don't be surprised if you see that on a quiz and me try to trick you. So make sure you remember that one. Okay? Any number to the 0 power equals 1. Okay, so any number, if the exponent above that number is a 0, it is going to equal 1. So if I have 7 to the 0 power, it just equals 1. If I have 42 to the 0 power, it's still just 1. Okay? If I have 197 to the 0 power, it equals 1. Once again, that's an easy quiz question that I always try to throw in there to mess you up, but hopefully you'll remember. Anything to the first power equals that number. Anything to the 0 power is going to equal 1. Okay? And now this next one, sometimes I hesitate telling students this because they get it mixed up with other things. This only works if your base is 10. So it only works if this number right here is a 10. So if your base is a 10, and let's say my exponent is a 5, then I put a 1, and then that exponent tells me how many zeros I need to put. So I would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 to the 5th power equals 100,000. Like I said, it only works with 10s. So like don't try it with a 9. So like if it was 9 to the 5th power, you would have to multiply 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. But if it's 10 to the 5th power, I don't need to do that work. I'm telling you, it's just going to be a 1 and then 5 zeros behind it. Okay? If it's 10 to the 9th power. Once again, if you don't remember this rule, then just multiply. But you're not multiplying 10 times 10, 10 times 9, remember. You're multiplying 10 9 times. So in other words, you're writing 10 9 times. But instead of doing all that work, put your 1, and then I'm putting 9 zeros to go with it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's my answer. Okay? Only works with 10s. And once again, this isn't something that you could get wrong on a test or a quiz. It's just like a quick tip that would help you. Rather than having to solve all this, if you know this rule, it'll make life a little bit easier when you are solving it. All right? A little bit of a smaller one. Remember, put your 1, and then this number right here tells you how many zeros to put. 1, 2, 3. It's 1,000. All right, but then don't get confused. Remember my rule, 10 to the 0 power. Well, remember, anything to the 0 power equals 1. But even so, put your 1, and then that tells you how many zeros you put. Well, I'm not putting any zeros, so it's just 1. Okay? Remember, that's only with tens. Okay? So let's put that so we don't forget. Only works with a base of 10. Okay? So let's do some examples. Okay? So if I give you, let's see, let's do 4 to the 3rd power. I hope you're not screaming at your computer right now that this equals 12, because that would be wrong. Remember, you write it out so that you don't mess up. Okay? Write it out so you don't mess up. I'm going to keep saying that, because if you just did this real quick, you might say 12. But when you write it out, you can do it one at a time. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 times 4 is 64. And you are welcome to use a calculator. Okay? You won't have like ridiculously big numbers when you're doing exponents, so don't worry about that, but I still am totally okay with using a calculator to help you solve some of these. You can do it with decimals and fractions, like this number right here could be 4.2 to the 3rd power, but for right now we're keeping with the basics of just doing whole numbers, so don't be surprised when we do bring that out later. Alright, what if I had 12 to the 2nd power? Okay, so you can call this 12 to the 2nd power, or you can call it 12 squared. Alright, anytime you say squared, it means it's to the 2nd power. In fact, let's put that over here as like a quick little tip. So 2nd power equals squared, and we talked about this when we did area. And then if you do the 3rd power, it equals cubed. Okay, so you can say, 4 to the 3rd power, or you can say 4 cubed. Same thing for here. I can say 12 to the 2nd power, or I can say 12 squared. So if it's 12 to the 2nd power, that means I'm doing 12 times 12, which is 184. All right, let's see. Let's do 3 to the 6th power. Okay, so how many times am I writing out 3? Well, I'm writing it out 6 times. Okay, and then just take it one at a time. 3 times 3 is 9. You can do this if you want. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. And then you could just multiply these if you wanted to. 9 times 9 is 81. So then I'm doing 81 times 9, which is going to give me 729. Okay? If you wanted to, you could have put this straight into the calculator. You could have done all those 3's and just multiplied it all at one time. So there's more than one way. It's just as long as you make sure you multiply all of them so that you can get your final answer.